We are Michelle and Brian Coleman.
After years of dreaming about it, in 2017, we took our life of adventure to a new level by walking the Camino de Santiago, from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago, and then on to Finisterre.
Follow along on this 4-part series as we talk about how we prepare now,
what we've learned along the way,
why we keep coming back,
and what we'll be doing differently on our 5th Camino in the summer of 2023.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about our 5, count them 5, best preparation tips.
Getting ready for the Camino is a big deal, especially if it's your first Camino. You're nervous. Am I gonna take the right stuff? Am I gonna do the right things? How am I gonna screw this up? So let's start with
the most important thing.
Your backpack, right? Man, backpacks are so hard because the best in all of the gear, honestly, the best gear for us is not gonna be the best gear for you.
So we're gonna put a disclaimer here that we never give specific advice about what you should take for gear, because gear is personal. What I like is totally different than what he likes.
Yeah.
So there's our disclaimer. But let's talk about the first thing.
Well, so backpacks, you gotta find something that's comfortable and that's gonna work for you. We've seen people on the Camino with 50 and 60 liter packs. We've seen people on the Camino with day packs.
Our first Camino, our backpacks were too heavy.
So
our first tip is weigh your backpack and ask yourself, first of all, is it less than 10% of your body weight?
Yeah.
And then second of all, ask, how would this feel if I never took it off? My backpack, the last 2 Caminos, weighed in at about 18 pounds. Brian will put the kilograms here below. And that was without water. So I can go somewhere between 17 and 19 pounds. I try not to take too much water. Unfortunately, in the Camino Frances, we don't need to take a lot of water with us at the start of the day.
And I think my pack came out about 21 pounds. Now, some people are gonna already leave comments down below. They're probably typing right now, so just wait. And you're gonna say, that's too much weight. You're right, it is a lot of weight.
Were you comfortable?
I was comfortable. I had to carry more weight because I was carrying camera gear.
At the end of the day, I actually didn't hate my backpack. But on my first Camino, I hated my backpack at the end of the day. And not only your backpack weight, but let's also just put in there, make sure your backpack fits you well, so that you're comfortable. Go to a professional shop, get it fitted, make sure that you know where it's supposed to go, because then once it's in that right spot, it might not work well for you. His backpack, I tried in my size and it didn't work well for me.
Yeah,
all right.
You can buy a backpack online and you might even be able to get it cheaper online, but if it doesn't fit you right, it's wasted money. So go to a local shop and have someone fit it for you, whether it's a big box store or a small local hiking shop. Find someplace where you can get a pack fitted. Tip number 2.
You mean dose? We both had to think about it. How sad is that?
I was actually trying to think of what's tip. I don't know what tip is. Dose. So the Camino de Santiago, if you're on the Camino Frances, you're spending most of your time in Spain, so you need to know Spanish, right?
Yes and no. The problem is you start out, like, if let's say you practice your Spanish and you're feeling really confident, and then you get to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port.
And nobody speaks Spanish.
In France.
Yeah, you're in France.
And not only are you in France, but you're in Basque country, and so the language is completely different. So I have 2 schools of thought here. 1, yes, you should be comfortable with Spanish, but 2, you should be comfortable with just having a basic understanding of, like, being able to say to somebody, can you say that to me, and be able to, like, try to repeat it back in practice. Practice helps you become more confident. I was terrible our first Camino. I was not confident at all, but I am much better now.
And here's the other thing about language. Spanish is not the only language you're gonna hear. You're gonna hear a lot of English, you're gonna hear a lot of French, you're gonna hear a lot of German, you're gonna hear some Korean, you're gonna hear all kinds of languages. Mm-hmm. So the more languages you know how to say hello in, probably the better, but don't don't be afraid of asking someone, do you speak English?
You'd be amazed at how many people speak English.
And don't be afraid to use Google Translate. If you've got a data package on your phone, or you can just download the language onto your phone so that Google Translate can work Spanish to English because you've already downloaded Spanish.
Tip number 3.
Trace.
Tip number 3 is, let's think about your shoes and your clothes. So again, we're not telling you specific gear, but here's what's most important. Whatever you are going to take for clothing, hand wash it at, like, let's say 4 o'clock in the evening. Hand wash it at 4 o'clock in the evening.
On a cloudy day.
On a cloudy day, and then hang it out outside and see if it's dry by 6 a.m. the next morning.
Because if it's not, you're gonna be walking in wet clothes, and that seems uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And a lot of people will have extra clothes hanging on their backpack, letting them dry. I've seen people's unmentionables being mentioned on the back of their backpacks.
Yeah.
But if you can make sure you take gear that is not only, quick dry, but really does do what it says it's going to do, that will save you a lot of time. Also, when it comes to when it comes to clothes, I think you should take extra socks. That's my opinion, because I like to change my socks in the middle of the day. Do you like to change your socks in the middle of the day?
I don't wear socks because I hike in sandals, which brings up shoes. Everybody wants to know, what are the best shoes? I just saw a post a couple of days ago about, will these shoes work for the Camino? If the shoes work for you, they'll work for the Camino. If the shoes give you blisters or make your feet hurt, they will not work for the Camino.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people wear the shoes that have the Altas that have the wide toe box, and I think those are so comfortable when I'm standing in the store. But when I take them out for a walk, I actually have some issues with my toes, and they're not very comfortable. So what looks like an outstanding shoe, and I see a lot of people wearing it, I can't wear that shoe. And so I wear a shoe that I'm extremely comfortable in. I have worn my Merrill hiking shoes on all of my Caminos, and I'm still wearing them. Well, I mean, not the same pair. Every Camino I have to get a new pair. How about you?
I've worn Chacos for all 4 of our previous Caminos and have never had problems with them. I've never had a blister on any of those hikes. We'll hope that stays the same for this summer. But your shoes, you just gotta find something that's gonna work for you.
Yeah, so make sure that the shoes work for you day in, day out, in pavement or grass, wherever you're walking, gravel, and then make sure your clothes can dry hanging outside in cloudy weather.
Tip number 4 is
Tip
number 4 is the one piece of gear that I do have a really strong opinion on.
Coleman has a strong opinion.
Yeah, hiking poles. You should absolutely 100% have them.
So I will say I don't completely agree with him. Now, see, I love my hiking poles and I take them. And if we're climbing uphill or we're downhill, I have my hiking poles out and I use them. Some people like one hiking pole just to have that stability. I like one hiking pole, but I prefer 2. But like if we're just in flat and I'm like, my hands are tired of holding something, there are times I go without using my hiking poles.
She does not use them all the time. I use them all day, every day. But in addition, for me, that's because of gear.
Do you use it for a reason that would be to the typical person?
I do, actually. They keep me from falling over.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of times that,
So if you're accident prone.
There's a lot of times that using the hiking pole, if you're doing a rock crossing on a stream, that helps you stay more stable. We've heard people who have had to use them to fight off a wild dog or, a dog that's just out running, and they kind of use that they click them together to scare a dog off or to scare an animal off. That can be really helpful. there's a lot of good reasons to have them.
A lot of good reasons. I would not do a Camino without it. If you are just taking your backpack on the plane and you're like, well, I don't want to take hiking poles because that means I'd have to check something, you can buy them in Saint Jean Pied de Port or any big city once you get to Spain. There's a lot of things that you can buy when you get there.
And by the way, hiking poles are another item that you could spend a lot of money on or very little. They don't have to be the most expensive hiking poles in the store. Some of the hiking poles run $100 and more per pole. Our poles, I think, were like $20 to $30 each.
Yeah. Speaking of that,
and a lot of them come in a set.
When it comes to things like specific gear, we'll link a video to what we actually packed on our last Camino, which was the Via Francigena. We have a video on what's in our bags. So we'll link that below so you have that. Tip number 5.
You want to go for a walk? Right now?
Why not? Why not? Let's do it. I mean, it's raining outside, but that sounds like perfect Camino training.
Yeah.
So now some people say get up and go, but our tip number 5 and our biggest preparation tip for you is do some training. Now, sometimes our training involves just drinking good Spanish wine.
Yes. On planning nights, opening a nice bottle of Rioja is perfect training.
Absolutely. But sometimes our training is more specific.
Yeah, we like to do a lot of walking just to make sure. And you know, we test out new gear on our long walks, but the most important thing I think is every single day. A lot of people say, oh, I could walk 10 miles, I could walk 13 miles once. But when you have to do it 5 days in a row or 8 days in a row, or if you're one of those people who doesn't stop for a rest day 35 days in a row.
If you've ever done a half marathon and laid on the couch the next day, you need more training.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, just go. And if you're in good physical condition, sure, just go. You may struggle with some things at the beginning. It may all work out. It's your Camino. It's your way. We're not here to tell you one specific way is right. We're just going to tell you our lessons learned and how to prepare better. So one of the things that we do is we take 1 week, sometime before we leave, and we walk 10 miles a day with full backpack on. Minimum of 10 miles a day with full backpacks for 7 days. Now we have the ability to do that. Not everybody does, but even if you did 5 miles a day, which you could get in after work before dark, 5 miles a day with a full backpack, 7 days in a row, and just see how you feel. Are you getting any blisters? Do you see any hot spots? Is something not fitting right? I'd rather find out early on and be able to fix those problems than find out on the Camino.
Stay tuned for the next video. We're going to talk about the lessons we've learned on our previous Caminos. As we mentioned, we've done 4 of them. This summer on the Camino Frances will be our 5th time heading out to walk, and we want to tell you what we've learned on them.